The views and opinions expressed by the host do not state or reflect those of the company and its management. Furthermore, the views, opinions, and insinuations made by the host, guests, do not reflect those of the show, the management, and the network. Magandang gabi, Pilipinas. Tonight, the political temperature continues to rise as the latest Pulse Asia survey shakes the possible 2028 presidential landscape. From surprising numbers to emerging contenders, we break down what the latest public sentiment could mean for the country's future. On this program, we could go beyond the surface. We examine the context, the strategy, and the implications behind the headlines. Ako po si Ox Balyado, and this is the PH Insider on TV. At para higit nating maunawaan ang mga legal na usapin sa mga isyong ating pag-uusapan ngayong gabi, makakasama pa rin natin ang kapitapitagang attorney ng bayan na ngayon ay present, Attorney Rizandro Unay. Good evening.
Good evening, Caballero. Good evening, Professor Dennis. At good evening sa ating mga kababayan. Samahan niyo kami sa isa na namang oras na paghimay ng mga isyong napapanahon. Ako po si Attorney Rizandro Unay.
Welcome back, Attorney Unay.
Thank
At
you.
para naman po tulungan din tayong himayin ang mga isyong politikal at matalinong diskurso, veterano po sa larangan ng mga isyong politikal, matapang, diretso at matalino sa kanyang mga binibitawang pahayag at pagpapaliwanag. Academician from the University of Santo Tomas and international relations expert, ang ating pong residenteng political analyst, na ngayon ko lang ulit makikita. Professor Dennis Coronacion.
Good evening. Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat. Ako po si Professor Dennis Coronacion na muling sinasamahan si Sir Ox at saka si Attorney Unay sa isa na namang mainit na talakayan ng issue na kinakaharap na ating bansa.
Well, I'm glad to be with these gentlemen tonight and wag na tayo magpatumpik-tupik pa. Nangunguna po sa mga isyong pinag-uusapan ngayon ng bayan. Senador Rafi Tulfo tumabla na kay VP Sara Duterte sa 2028 poll. Lenny humahabol. Plus sina Senador Rafi Tulfo at Vice President Sara Duterte sa Pulse Asia Presidential Preference Survey para sa 2028 elections matapos pareho makakuha ng 46%. Sa hiwalay namang match-up kontra kay Lenny Robredo, naguna si Duterte, 51% laban sa 43%. Sa NCR, tabla sina Tulfo at Duterte sa 42%, habang dominante si Tulfo sa Luzon na may 72%. Ngunit sa Mindanao at Visayas, si Duterte ang nangingibabaw. Ayon kay Ronald D. Holmes, bahagi ito ng March 2026 ulat ng Bayan Survey na kinumisyon ng tanggapan ni Senador Juan Miguel Zubiri. Dagdag pa niya, mahalagang mabasa ang sentimiento ng taong bayan upang mas maintindihan o kung anong klase ng liderato ang hinahanap ng mga Pilipino. Isinagawa ang survey mula February 27 hanggang Marso 2 sa 1,200 respondents na may 2.8% margin or positive negative 2.8% margin of error. For the meantime, let's tackle down the issue with these two gentlemen na medyo na-miss ko talaga. Pag-usapan natin itong kahalagahan ng survey na to. Are these really reliable indicators insofar as the 2028 presidential race is concerned? Or can we say that it is too early for us to come up with something? Kasi kalimat kanan ng survey, Professor Dennis at Attorney Sandro.
Yes.
Sige, himayin nga natin ito. Batay din sa mga munti nating pananaw sa usapin ito.
Well, ako po as an academic, we always treat surveys as a data gathering tool.
Yeah.
So kung meron kami mga gustong malaman, lalo na tungkol sa persepsyon o pananaw ng mga Pilipino o ng isang komunidad, ginagamit namin itong mga surveys upang malaman ang sentimento nila. So ang tingin ko dito, this is a reliable tool. But then again, we have to contextualize. Depende yan kung anong sitwasyon, para sa anong sitwasyon mo ginagamit ang surveys. Halimbawa, kung ito ay nais mong malaman kung anong sentimento ng mga Pilipino tungkol sa isang napapanahong issue, reliable yan. Pero kung ang pag-uusapan natin, halimbawa yung magaganap na 2028 presidential election at ang katanungan ay reliable ba ito? Tingin ko kasi ang nature ng survey, it only captures yung sentiment ng mga tao in a specific period of time. So hindi niya covered yun hanggang 2028.
Pwede pang magbago.
Pwedeng
In the course
magbago.
of the-
In fact, kung ngayon ko nag-survey, next week, baka magbago na naman ang sentimento ng mga tao. So that's a problem with the surveys.
At may mga surveys na madugtungan ko lang. Depende, tama ka, depende sa purpose ng survey. No? Kasi meron ding survey na for mindset. Di ba? I mean, di ba, yung nakadesenyo yung result. But anyway, Attorney Sandro.
Yan din ang gusto ko sanang itanong eh.
Okay.
Diba? Paano
Sige.
ba ka-reliable? I mean, ibig ko sabihin in terms of objectivity nitong mga survey nito kasi minsan alam naman natin, mayroong mga matlilikot ang isip na ginagamit lang itong survey na ito para magkaroon ng projection on whoever's side para ibenta na mas maganda yung isang projection o sitwasyon.
Specifically, yung politiko, for example.
Politiko, ganon. Yun ang medyo ko lang doon sa, of course, with all due respect naman sa mga respectable nating mga
Surveyors. Okay.
Sana yun ang palagay ko yun ang patuloy nilang nilalabanan yung perception na yun sa kanila, sa credibility nila hanggang ngayon. Would you agree, Professor?
Well, tama ka doon, attorney, no? Kasi kung ilalagay natin ito sa political context, itong specific survey results na to, hindi lang ng Pulse Asia, no? Even yung mga other survey companies, maraming given yung mga issues ngayon, like the impeachment, tsaka yung oil crisis, maraming katanungan ng mga Pilipino. Una, since frontrunner si VP Sara Duterte, ang katanungan, kaya ba siyang talunin? Is she defeatable?
Parang sinasabi niyo, Professor, na sa ngayon, nasa victorious situation siya. Baka yung kalaban niya, lahat, kung sino man yun, ay nasa sitwasyon ng defeat.
Yes,
Diba?
ganun na nga. No?
Parang ganun na nga. And therefore, these people na kalaban niya are trying to come up with something para i-win over o kunin sa kanya yung victory na tinatamasa niya ngayon. Tama po ba?
Tama.
Merong ganong lumalabas, no? Pero recently, again, based on sa survey, there is what you call a statistical tie between two potential candidates, Rafi Tulfo and Sara Duterte. Ano tingin natin yung current political mood ngayon ng mga Pinoy?
Well, this is a different scenario, no? Kasi one-on-one. Unlike yung isang scenario naman na tatlo, at least there are three or more potential presidential candidates. Potential pa lang to kasi wala pa naman COC. So, iba-ibang scenarios at iba-ibang possibilities.
And again, it might be too early for us to conclude, ano? Kung anong masasabi natin yung political mood niya ng mga Pinoy as of the present. Kasi malaki pa ang itatakbo tatakbo ng panahon. Pwede ito magbago every now and then. But for the meantime, we already have our guest tonight. I understand is already available online via Zoom. Please welcome the president of Pulse Asia, Professor Ronald Holmes. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the PH Insider on TV.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Ronald, I have here with me the two gentlemen, Attorney Sandro Unay and Professor Dennis Coronacion. Let me introduce myself to you, Ox Balyado po. And once again, welcome to the show. We were talking about the reliability of the survey numbers being indicators of the 2028 presidential race. Or masyado pa ba itong maaga para pag-usapan itong, o para sabihin na reliable nga itong mga result ng recent surveys? None.
They're only reliable insofar as the time that we conducted the survey. If those races were the ones that came about, if the elections were held also within the same period as our field work. So it cannot in any way be predicted of what will happen in 2028 because we don't know who's running. We don't know how many are running. So in this case, it's just simply a measure of pre-election preference at a particular point in time.
That's right. In fact, si Professor Dennis Coronation earlier on in our conversation already uttered that it can be reliable for a certain period of time. Let's say for
Yes.
now, but a lot of things can happen between now and 2028, right? So, yeah. But another thing that we would like you to comment on is about the statistical tie between Rafi Tulfo and Vice President Sara Duterte. What does it tell us about insofar as the political mood of the Filipinos?
Well, you can look at the subnational areas and you see in the subnational areas, Mindanao, Sara Duterte is leading. In Visayas, she's getting 2 out of 3. But in the balance of Luzon, that's where Rafi Tulfo gets a sizable lead over Sara Duterte in that hypothetical scenario that there's a one-on-one race. Now, the reason why they're tied is largely because the size of the balance of Luzon is almost the same as it's the same as the size of Visayas and Mindanao combined. So if you put weights towards on the sample, then the preferences that they get in each of those areas would lead them towards a tie. So that means they're popular. Rafi Tulfo is popular and preferred in the balance of Luzon. They're tied in the NCR. And Sara gets a sizable lead in Mindanao and at least the majority of the support in Visayas.
Okay.
Professor, ma-follow up ko lang tungkol dito sa tie ni Vice President Sara Duterte at Senator Rafi Tulfo. You were mentioning about the geographical aspect kung kaya nagkaroon sila ng ganitong sitwasyon, nagkaroon sila ng sizable ratings in different geographical situation where they are in, where they control. But then again, meron po bang kinalaman dito yung pagiging populist din ng style ni Senator Rafi Tulfo na nakagaya din sa style ng mga Duterte?
Well, yun ang dahilan kung bakit na-elect siya sa Senado, di ba? Dahil sa pangmataga ng programa niya ay nagbibigay ng serbisyo, nagbibigay ng tugon sa mga hinaing ng publiko. So, ang kanyang popularidad ay batay na rin doon sa ganyang record. At ganoon na rin ang makukuha niya kung siya tatakbo muli bilang senador o sa pagka-presidente. Ang maalala ng tao ay kung anong kanyang ginawa bilang isang broadcaster na mabilis na tumutugon sa mga hinaing at mga concerns or issue ng mga masang Pilipino, no? Ng ordinaryong Pilipino.
Would you say na itong si Senator Rafi Tulfo would compete within the territorial political sphere of VP Sara?
Well, if you're referring to Mindanao, it's really something that you can anticipate probably certain changes there. Because if you divide Mindanao, I mean, you're looking at regions there. Perhaps in Region 11, VP Sara would really be that strong. But in other regions, you might, specifically in urban areas, it's always a question of, for example, those who were opposed to VP Sara, who sided with impeachment, the first impeachment case filed against her, they ran for the election and they won. And those people are largely congressmen or representatives from urban areas. So we don't know whether those urban areas we have voters in those urban areas who can be mobilized, whose support can be mobilized by other candidates, and whose support cannot be commanded by the Dutertes. So in that sense, that's something that we can only assess closer to the election when we really see who are running for election. Pwede rin kasi yung kalaban ni Sara, ang magiging katandem yan, galing Mindanao eh.
Yeah. Yes.
Di ba?
Professor Holmes, si Dennis Coronation po to, no?
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon po. Ako interested ako dun sa statistical tie between Vice President Sara Duterte and Rafi Tulfo. Kasi there's also, I think, a separate question wherein pinagpare si Vice President Sara Duterte at saka si former Vice President Leni Robredo. Curious ako dun sa pagkaka-design nung questions niya kasi it seems na one-on-one ito. Are you do these questions suggest na or are you trying to search for a possible presidential candidate who could defeat Vice President Sara Duterte?
No, Dennis, the questions actually came, as we mentioned in our statement to the media. These are questions that were LiDAR questions in our survey, and it came from the office of Senator Mig Zubiri. So it's not necessarily something that we will disagree with, but the possibility of a head-to-head race is still there, although we have not had one-on-one races since 1992, the first presidential elections after 1986. Who knows whether there will be just two candidates? It really depends on how those who are in other camps outside of the Duterte camp would decide, no? And you don't know even whether the Duterte camp will remain also unified. I guess there's a higher possibility that there's only going to be one candidate from the Dutertes. But whether there are other candidates from the other political camps, we'll see. Mahirap eh. Pero hindi sa amin nanggaling yung mga pangalan, no? Nanggaling yan sa opisina ni Senator Zubiri.
Okay.
Alright, Professor Holmes, kanina napag-uusapan natin si VP Sara Duterte being from Mindanao, from Davao. At it looks like there is this political advantage for VP Sara kasi pagdating sa usapin ng Mindanao. And it seems that political bailiwicks still play a major role in the race, right? And what does this say about Filipino voters today?
Well, it's not exactly just today. It's something that we've seen even in elections earlier, even in the pre-martial law era, that you have voters who actually will vote along ethno-linguistic lines. Kaya dati, even in the two-party system that we had in the pre-war and post-war period, you will see that the presidential candidate will normally select a vice presidential running mate who comes from a different region, coming from a different ethno-linguistic group. So it's nothing new. And that's the reason why the unit team succeeded also in 2025 to get majority support, because essentially they brought together North and South. So that's something that candidates will calibrate. Hindi ka pwedeng galing lang sa Mindanao, because that means that you're dispensing all the other areas, 75% of the voting population. So let's see.
Alright.
Professor, sa inyo pong palagay, since pinag-uusapan lang naman natin dito itong tatlong mga candidates, possible candidates, former Vice President Leni Robredo, si VP Sara, si Senator Raffy Tulfo. Do you see a three-way fight coming 2028 presidential elections from these candidates, would-be candidates, if ever they would run? Ano po sa tingin niyo? At palagay niyo, sinong maapektuhan dito? Sino ang magbe-benefit if ever Senator Tulfo would really throw his hat to the arena of in the political arena in 2028?
Yeah, that was a tatlo, so si VP Leni at si Senator Tulfo nagsabing hindi sila tatakbo. Ngayon ang tanong, maaari bang tumakbo silang pareho? Oo, maaari. Maaari bang may iba pang tumakbo at magiging tatlo, apat o lima ang medyo significant candidates? Yes, that's a possibility. But if that happens, and if we just work with the figures that we have, if the elections were held at the time that we conducted the survey, multiple candidates will split their support. So let's say, for example, in the case of VP Leni and Senator Tulfo, they're both strong in the balance of Luzon. One of the sets had 6 names, including Leni and Raffy Tulfo. And you see, in that particular set with 6 names, si VP Leni gets more of the preference in balance of Luzon compared to Senator Tulfo. So that's an indication of how voters would be split if there are more candidates who are strong in specific areas. So it's up to them really to agree, because otherwise they'll end up like, in 2004, there were 2 camps that were opposed to the GMA administration, Fernando Poe Jr. and Ping Lacson. If Ping Lacson did not run, FPJ would have won, right? So that's something that it's possible, but that's something that may happen also, or will happen, when 2 candidates who are strong in a specific place decide to run themselves.
regard, we would like to thank you for your time, Professor Ronald, for
Yes,
joining us
sorry.
tonight. Yeah.
Okay.
Until next time, thank you.
Okay.
All right, that's Professor Ronald Holmes, the president of Pulse Asia. Anyway, Professor Dennis, I'm sure meron kang gustong itanong doon eh. Baka pwede na natin pag-usapan natin. Himay-himayin natin
tayo
dito
ng oras,
nila Attorney Santo. Medyo nagmamadali lang si Professor Ronald.
Before
believe, yeah.
before he he said goodbye to us, meron sana akong gusto itanong, what factors could explain Lenny Robredo gaining ground despite losing in the overall matchup? Kasi it appears in the survey that in a head-to-head situation, VP Sara Duterte going up against former Vice President Lenny Robredo, mas lamang si
malayo.
VP sa malayo. So ang ano doon, is it still possible for the former Vice President to gain
Traction.
to gain traction, for her campaign to gain traction, and for her numbers to go up. Diba? Yun ang magandang tanong doon eh. Kasi at least si Tulfo, statistically tied sila ni VP Sara Duterte.
Well, ako, nakikita ko dyan, pwede pa namang umangat. Diba? Kasi, yan, mananatili rin yan doon sa pagsusumikap ng kanyang mga kaalyado hanggang sa ngayon. Kasi they can come up with a certain unique political plan na pwedeng masabi nating effective. But for now, the way I see it, I think she's doing well as a mayor. Kung sa Naga ang pag-uusapan, I think lamang siya, or even Bicol region. But nakita naman natin na rin yung mga resulta based on sa mga previous elections. No? I think ang challenge ngayon doon sa mga kaalyado ng dating vice-presidente kung paano o anong mga bagong strategy ang pwedeng i-employ ng team for them to regain the traction that she once had back in time.
Ang problema ko kasi, Caballero Prof, parang itong dalawang si Senator Raffy Tulfo at si former Vice President Lenny, parang yung narinig ko na puro nag-declare na hindi sila tatakbo. So, hanggang ngayon, it leaves us with VP Sara talaga sa ngayon. I don't know, while all their rivals, other would-be rivals are still having intra-dispute among themselves kung sino talaga ang uniting factor sa kanila. Ang so far, ang nakikita kong pag-asa lang nila is to make VP Sara legally infirm to run in 2028. After itong impeachment proceedings, kung matatanggal siya talaga. So parang yun lang ang nagfo-focus sila lang doon. Hindi sila nagfo-focus sa iba pang gagawin like good governance, kung paano mag-gain back yung ng mga trust and confidence ng tao. Di ba? Parang yun lang ang nakikita ko. It's the only game plan that they have so far now. And using all the vast resources of the government right now, pati yung mga institutions natin, nakaumang lahat sa ulo ni VP Sara just to eradicate him from running sa 2028 elections. Now, what does it tell us? It tells us na itong mga indicators na to, itong mga kalaban ni VP Sara mismo, nagsasabi na si VP Sara nga ay winner sa ngayon. Di ba? Kasi kung sa palagay nila sila ang mananalo, they won't be doing all these things. Itong lahat ng ito. Di po ba?
So sinasabi mo, Attorney, lahat itong mga hakbang ngayon na ginagawa ng mga kalaban sa politika ng mga Duterte, specifically yung mga nasa Kongreso, ay lahat ito ay effort to hinder the Vice President from becoming the next President.
And not only that, they are operating from the status of defeat right now. Para sa akin, ang status nila ngayon is nasa defeat mode. Kasi they're trying to climb up to where Sara is nandun ngayon. So, and medyo nakakaano palit and VP Sara is doing nothing. Parang, hintay ko lang pagpunta sa Senate, tingnan natin. And mind you, pagdating sa Senado, since the Vice President is, may dagdag ko lang ng konti, must be removed in the same manner as the President. At pag ang Presidente
through an
ay
impeachment
proceedings, ang nagpe-preside ay ang Chief Justice, pag Presidente. Now, if the Constitution says that the manner of removing the Vice President is the same as that of the President, then the Chief Justice of the President, of the Philippines, of the Supreme Court,
Has to
will also
preside
over the impeachment proceedings
Of
in
the Vice President.
Of the Vice President and the Senate. Mukhang hindi pa masyadong nakikita nila yon.
Di ba malinaw sa saligang batas yun?
Malinaw naman yun. Kaya lang baka lang sinasabi kasi ni Senator Soto, nababasa ko, na nag-aaral na daw siya, nagka-crash course na siya sa Rules of Evidence. Probably anticipating na siyang mag-preside. Akin lang naman yun. Ano? Kasi hindi ka naman maghahanda ng ganun kung hindi ka diba, preparing for something. But then again, I have to remind you, na ito yung sinasabi ng saligang batas. And it is a factor na pagdating doon sa impeachment trial sa Senate, rules of evidence will be strictly enforced by the Chief Justice in order to separate the chaff from the grains of truth. So doon mag-iikot yung appreciation ng ating mga hurado na mga senador sa ipapalabas ng mga tsaka i-discount ng mga evidences ng presiding officer.
What does the political scientist have to say here now?
Well, may dagdag ko lang sa point ni Attorney, no, na historically, lahat ng mga halos lahat ng mga vice presidents ay naging subject or object ng demolition job.
Yes, of
Kasi nga, of course, based on the trajectory of their political career, they're expected
Papunta
to...
na ron eh.
Papunta na doon. One
Immediate
step
threat.
away eh.
Immediate threat to.
One step away. So, threat talaga siya. Lalo pat kung hindi sila magkapartido ng Pangulo, ng
Exactly.
Presidente, which is always the case. Hindi
Pero
sila
ito, unit
magkapartido. Oo, tama yun. Nag-start na magkaibigan, tapos naghiwalay din. So, talaga namang, there's always that... yung anticipated na demolition job against the sitting vice president. Oo, kasi because of the presumption na siya na yung kasunod eh. Ngayon, varying degrees na lang yan.
Yes.
Oo, yung sa ngayon, impeachment ang track. Yung dati, minarginalize during the time of Vice President Benny Robredo. Minarginalize siya. Tapos si Binay, si Vice President Binay, kinasuhan mga corruption charges. Oo, so...
But those were all geared towards one direction.
That's right.
That is to hamper their growth. Growth ba matatawag yun? Anyway, etong si Senator Raffy Tulfo has been gaining strong public support, sabi nila, no? And yet he's not officially declaring his plans, no, as a potential presidential candidate. In fact, sabi pa niya, he's not interested, no? Oo. Anong tingin natin dito? Kasi, ang sinasabi din sa survey, sa ibang surveys, tuloy-tuloy yung pag-usbong ng kanyang pangalan.
Ewan ko, Prof. Pero sa akin, ang nakikita ko, it's not that meron siyang geographical na hawak or bailiwick. It's more of his being a populist. Ibig sabihin, yung mga tao identifies, lalong-lalo na yung mga nasa center anti-Duterte na mga tao at saka yung mga voters na mga about sa law enforcement, parang sympathetic papunta sa kanya ang tingin ko dyan. Ibig sabihin, ang matatamaan dito kung mag-three-cornered fight, isa sa tatamaan dito yung kandidatura ni VP Sara. Kasi mag-i-slice diyan yung mga yung mga tao, mga working class papunta kay Senator Raffy Tulfo. That is kung tatakbo siya. At malalong interesting para sa akin kung mag-three-cornered fight. Kaya naano ko yun eh. Naitanong ko kanina kay Professor Ronald Holmes kung ano ang mangyayari, sino magbe-benefit kung merong Leni Robredo, Vice President Sara at merong greenhorn na Senator Raffy Tulfo. Sino mag-gain, sino magbe-benefit, sino ang hindi magbe-benefit dyan?
Yeah.
Well, Professor.
Well, i-point out ko po muna, Attorney, no, na may political base ang mga Tulfo actually.
Yes.
But it's not the traditional kind or conventional kind. Pinag-uusapan natin kanina, may
Yung
mga
mga
bailiwicks.
teritoryo.
Tama.
Yes,
Pero ito naman, mga Tulfo, They are banking on their image as the dispenser of justice.
Yes.
Oo, kasi there are millions of Filipinos who feel frustrated and disappointed
With the justice system.
with our justice system.
Yes.
Kaya they go to the programs of the Tulfo brothers to seek justice.
And
di ba?
immediate.
And immediate yun, oo. So, maraming mga Pilipino ganyan. Pangalawa, yung mga OFWs. Oo, kasama
yun.
yun sa political base. So, kung
OFWs.
magkakaroon ng head-to-head clash between VP Sara Duterte and Senator Raffy Tulfo, tingin ko maghahati sila pagdating sa socio-economic classes. Kasi
Yeah.
both of them enjoy the support of classes, socio-economic classes D and E.
Yes.
Although walang political bailiwick yung isa,
Yes.
si Senator Tulfo. So dito natin matetesting, kung kaya bang halimbawa from the on the part of Senator Tulfo, kaya ba niyang pwede niyang ipantapat sa bailiwick issue niya or problem niya. Pwede bang yung kanyang social media popularity? Oo, ipanlaban niya doon sa bailiwick. But at least we have seen that there is a potential presidential candidate who can match up.
Right. In fact, yung social media popularity niyan, I can consider this already as a bailiwick. Kasi it's a digital space now. It's already space that's occupied by the digital nomads. I mean, by digitally inclined individuals. And ang dami nun.
Yes.
That includes ourselves.
And the
Yeah.
youth.
And the youth,
Yeah.
especially the Gen Zs and the millennials. Ito yung majority ngayon sa mga botante sa totoo lang. No? Kaya medyo nagmamatter at masasabi nating bailiwick din yun. Pero balikan lang natin yung usaping survey. Ano ba dapat ang ilagay sa isipan ng bawat Pilipino when it comes to interpreting surveys? Sige nga.
Well,
I mean, just to guide them once and for all. Kasi I understand we all have our own ways of interpreting surveys. And in fact, we all have our own opinions pagdating sa mga survey ngayon. Yung mga numbers na binibigay, for instance, the Pulse Asia.
Yeah. Actually, it depends on whose perspective we are looking at.
Okay.
Kung halimbawa potential presidential candidate, halimbawa yung mga napangalanan dyan, former VP Leni Robredo, Senator Raffy Tulfo, yung survey results niyan can serve as a guide for them when they decide. Oo, kasi titingnan nila kung mag-gain ng traction eh. Oo, wag muna sila mag-decide ngayon kasi pabago-bago nga ang isip ng mga Pilipino, nag-iiba-ibang results. And historically also, yung front runner sa presidential race,
Yes.
madalas hindi na nanalo. Parating meron parang dark horse na nag-i-emerge who would towards the end or
yes.
eventually would gain momentum and would win the presidential race.
Yes.
And that's what makes this 2020 presidential elections exciting.
interesting, yeah.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yun nga in fact, I was about to say na popularity will not make you president or win the election. You must have an organization, national organization
That's
like
right.
that, yung political mo.
Machinery.
But then again, if I have to go back to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, wala din naman siyang ganun eh. In fact, nag-i-enjoy ngayon sa popularity pa nga si Raffy Tulfo kaysa kay
Yes.
PRRD noon eh, nang bago pa siya umalis eh. Bago pa siya mag-run for president.
Okay.
Di ba? So, hindi natin masabi.
All right. Still ahead on the PH Insider as Vice President Sara Duterte remains a dominant force in early surveys. Who are the strongest names emerging that could challenge her in the 2028 presidential race? We'll talk about that when the PH Insider on TV returns.
The 2025 was a meaningful year for Bingo Plus Foundation. As our purpose grew, it was time for a new chapter. Introducing DigiPlus Foundation.
Education is the bridge to opportunities. Through the Future Smart program, we empower learners and educators nationwide. At DigiPlus Foundation, we multiply learning for a better future.
Healthcare should come with no barriers. Kalusugan Plus delivers medical missions and Embrace Plus mental health support which empower every Filipino through compassionate and accessible healthcare. At DigiPlus Foundation, we multiply healing. One patient, one community at a time.
Every dream deserves a chance. In Wish Plus, we grant wishes, empowering individuals, families, and communities together with their partners. At DigiPlus Foundation, we multiply hope, dignity, and possibilities.
Disasters don't wait. Through the Bayanihan Plus program, we mobilize immediate response and recovery efforts. At DigiPlus Foundation, we multiply the spirit of Bayanihan across the nation.
DigiPlus Foundation is committed to delivering on our promise to bring help within everyone's reach. When support becomes accessible, impact doesn't just grow, it multiplies.
Madaling pa ba mag-cash in sa Bingo Plus?
Sa Bingo Plus.
Official partner na namin ng Bayad Center. Easy!
License ba yun ng Pagcor? Sa Bingo Plus.
Kaya responsible gaming lagi.
Ang fun!
Gaming? Na may insurance?
Sa Bingo Plus.
Sa PhilFirst, insured ang wallet mo ng 1 million pesos.
Safe nga! Talaga namang...
Sa Bingo Plus.
Partnered with Bayad Center, licensed by Pagcor, protected by PhilFirst.
Sa Bingo Plus.
The best players succeed because they set boundaries. Every great athlete wins with control. Always have a game plan.
Next day, lumakad ulit ako doon. Meron akong nakitang matanda. Sumusunod siya sa akin. Sumunod siya sa akin gano'n. Sumunod siya sa akin. Tapos, nahalata ako na, magnanakaw to ah. Sabi ko, popokpokin ko ulo na to pag lumapit sa akin to. Pero ang ginawa ko, tumigil ako doon sa may kanto. Pagtigil ko doon sa may kanto, may posteng malinaw doon, tapos may CCTV, doon ako pumesto. Biglang lumapit sa akin. Paglapit sa akin, Toy, nakagat ka dati ng aso. Sabi sa akin. Nakagat ka ba? Nakagat ka ba? Sabi ko, opo. Sabi niya, paano niyo po nalaman? Sabi ko, paano niyo po nalaman na nakagat ako ng aso? Alam ko, kasi nandun ako. Sabi niya, nandun ako. Tapos nung, okay na. Sabi niya, umalis ako. Tapos maya, pagbalik ko, pauwi na ako. Doon pa rin siya. Toy, alam ko kung saan ka nakagat. Sabi niya, saan ka nakagat? Sabi niya, alam ko kung saan ka nakagat. Dito tatuwin. Kung, sabi niya, sa leeg. Sabi niya, sa leeg ka na agad. Sabi ko, opo, totoo po. Kasi nakagat ko sa leeg? Oo, totoo. Ito, meron ako dito Tingin ko makikita. Oo nga, no. Oo nga. May... Patay ngayon, hindi naman sa leeg yun. Hindi, ito. May parang pekas ako dito. Tapos sabi niya, patingin ako niyan. Tinignan niya. Sabi niya, yung aso na nakakagat sa'yo, hindi normal. Sabi niya sa akin, hindi yan normal. Kailangan mo sumama sa akin. Tapos ito, pakanan mo ito. Tingnan mo. Kuhakan mo. Ay, nakulul na nga ako eh. Nakagat ako ng aso.
We're back on the PH Insider. Tonight, we continue our discussion on the possible contenders who could go head-to-head with Vice President Sara Duterte as the road to the 2028 election slowly begins to take shape. Ito. Balikan natin ito.
Okay.
Sige, I wanna go first. Sige.
Kasi ito imagine this, na yung natin dito ay declared natin na champion si Sara. Naghahanap lang tayo ng challenger. Okay? So, yan ang mahirap nating hanapin ngayon. But so far, if we have to go by the numbers, sa aking palagay, si Senator Raffy Tulfo, kung interested siya, ay posible. Bakit? Ang karamihan ngayon sa supporters ni VP Sara ay ang hugot doon pa rin sa populist na style ng tatay niya. And Senator Raffy Tulfo shares
The same
charisma ng mga tao at may ano doon sa mga tao, magnet.
Yes,
Parang ganun. No?
right.
Kaya lang, nandito na to, may organisasyon na si VP Sara na noon pa na-establish na ng Duterte. Yung OFW, makikishare na lang doon si Raffy Tulfo, sa kanya din yan, na hindi naman siguro nasali sa survey. At saka, ang isa pa, nandyan yan kung susuportahan ba si Senator Raffy Tulfo nitong administration at nitong mga pinklawan, dilawan na sinasabi na ano talaga ni VP Sara. If they are really trying to come up with a formidable opponent, I don't think they should cast their pride at ibigay kay Raffy Tulfo one-on-one with VP Sara. Unless na gusto pa nilang buhayin si VP Lenny, interesting match yan, tatlo.
Yeah. Ako naman, bago muna ako mapunta doon sa katanungan na sino bang viable candidate that could possibly defeat the front runner. Gusto ko lang punahin yung kung paano kung ano sinasuggest ng survey results.
Okay.
Parang maraming scenarios kasi.
Yes,
If it's if the presidential race is a competition between and among 3 or more candidates, presidential candidates, ang gusto sabihin ng survey result, mananalo si VP Sara Duterte.
Yes.
May advantage siya doon.
That's right.
May advantage.
Pero if it's a head-to-head race, kung ganun na scenario, between the two potential presidential candidates, Raffy Tulfo and former VP Robredo, mas strong yung chance niya, ni Senator Raffy Tulfo.
Yes, correct.
Kasi nga mayroong mga mahating boto.
Statistically tied.
Mapupunta rin sa kanya.
In favor. Anyway, siguro mas maganda, balikan lang natin kasi pinag-uusapan natin yung viability ng interest ni VP Sara Duterte in the presidential race. Kasi ngayon, mainit ang pinag-uusapan yung impeachment.
Yes.
At ito, papunta na sa Senado. You guys think na tuluyang babagsak yung numbers? Kasi sinasabi recently na there's a decline. Bumabagsak yung numbers in terms of numbers, yung numero ni Vice President. And ngayon, mainit na pinag-uusapan yung impeachment at tila yan, pinapakita sinasabi sa Kongreso na mayroon talaga dapat may impeachable offense na ginawa ang Vice Presidente. Ngayon ba, tingin nyo makaka-contribute yan sa tuluyang pagbagsak ng numero ng Vice President?
Well, tingin ko hindi kasi kung titingnan natin yung yung panahon na kung saan sinagawa yung survey, early part of March.
Yes.
Hindi pa nag-uumpisa yung House Committee on Justice hearings yata, o baka nasa initial stage pa lang.
Yes,
Hindi pa nilalabas yung mga damning evidence. So wala pang impact doon sa pananaw ng mga tao. Pero in connection with the impeachment hearings against the Vice President, tingin ko magkakaroon ng influence yan doon sa decision-making ng mga congressmen natin who are about to decide at the plenary level whether they're going to approve or not the House Committee on Justice resolution.
Yung articles of impeachment.
Yung articles of impeachment. Kasi nung kakadeklara lang ni VP Sara Duterte na siya itatakbo sa 2028 elections, parang yung majority yung mga congressmen na kasama sa majority, nagdadalawang isip na sila Naguluhan sila. Ngayon parang nalilinawan ulit sila, bumabalik na naman sila sa Although, hindi na kasing dami nung gaya ng dati. Kasi I heard from the interview of Congressman Puno na per political party, hindi 100% yung support ng mga members ng bawat political party para sa impeachment against the Vice President. Parang mga naglalaro lang sa 50% yung figures.
Kung dyan pa lang, medyo mahirapan sila sa pag-submit ng articles of impeachment pagka-approve. mahirapan sila lalo doon sa
Senado.
sa trial mismo. But then again, siguro ko let us not kasi pinag-usapan natin dito yung possibilities kung sinong presidential na mangyayari sa presidential elections eh.
Yes.
Just in case lang, Prof, kung halimbawa lang ma-impeach si VP Sara, ibig sabihin hindi na-impeach na nga, ma-impeach siya. Ibig sabihin ma-convict siya doon sa impeachment trial sa Senate. Ang plan B yata is Baste Duterte. How would Baste fare as against Senator Raffy Tulfo just in case?
Yun ang magandang tanong. Sino pwede pumalit?
Tingin ko pag na-impeach, tapos andun na yung accessory penalty na prohibition from holding public office para kay VP Sara Duterte. Tingin ko somehow male-level yung playing field. O kasi although may Duterte brand of politics.
Even if another Duterte will
kasi
participate in the
merong Duterte brand of politics, syempre, di ba? Pero bawat isang member ng Duterte family may kanya-kanyang strength
may
and
kanya-kanyang
weaknesses.
charisma rin yun.
May kanya-kanyang charisma.
Which is very vital.
Oo, at saka baguhan pa lang sa national politics yan. Kaka-launch nga lang niya nung nilaunch yung Rage.
Yes.
So, hindi pa tried and tested yung kung anong klaseng national leader si Baste Duterte. Pero ang tumatak na sa isipin ng mga tao, yung leadership style ni Vice President Sara Duterte. So I think yung malaking difference na yon between her and her brother, somehow baka ang epekto niyan sa presidential race, male-level yung playing field.
You think magkakaroon ba ng factor pa ba yung integrity ng ating electoral system? Kasi I think kailangan din natin i-tackle yun kasi di ba? Lahat itong discussions natin, lahat ng itong mga haka-haka at mga pagpupursige ng ating Kongreso para sa accountability daw ng kung sino-sino. Kung at the end of the day, yung electoral system natin ay maki-question din ang integrity, para mahirap din naman.
Anyway, magandang magpakalalim dyan later on. But for now, as of the moment, there are only 3 big names emerging as national candidates for the presidential race come 2028. Does that mean wala na bang iba posibleng pangalan pa na lumutang para mamuno ng bansa? Well, kasi Leni Robredo, sorry to say this, but it's just always there. Lagi nandyan yung pangalan pa, pinag-usapan presidential race. Well, the Tulfo, specifically Raffy Tulfo, has always been there. Wala, anong tingin nyo? Well, as a political scientist.
Doon sa sa hanay ng mga traditional opposition, Senator Rizzo Antiveros, Senator Bam Aquino, yung mga dilawan na sinasabi,
the pink lawans.
Meron naman pwede. Kung halimbawa yung bang the capability to lead, meron naman sa kanila. Kaya nga lang, winnability, that's the question mark.
Iba yun.
That's another story.
So, yun, pwede magkaroon ng Tapos, there's always this, na may biglang surprise candidate. Yung tinatawag na dark horse. Most likely, it would come from the LGU. Yung mga local executives, pwedeng governor, pwedeng mayor. Diba? Ako hinihintay ko na lang, maging 40 years old si Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto.
Ilan taon pa ba?
Hindi ko alam
So, ibig sabihin, okay ka na si VP Sara na muna ngayon ang presidente?
Well, hindi. Alamin pa natin, no?
Maghihintay ka ako sa tingin ko talaga ngayon, so far, wala pa talagang tatalo sa kanya. Sa ngayon, I just don't know because this is a developing itong mga nangyayari. Pero sa ngayon, kung tayo ngayon nag-uusap ngayong araw na to, wala akong ma-pinpoint na tatalo kay VP Sara.
And what's the surveys telling us, right? All these surveys na nangyayari, siya pa rin Kung mag-election niya yan, siya pa rin mananalo.
Siya pa rin naman
But tanong, how reliable is that?
Ako sa tingin ko, wag na lang yung survey. The way that this administration at saka yung mga rivals ni VP Sara are doing their best para lang siya ma-unseat as a vice president para hindi siya makatakbo sa 2028 speaks for itself. Parang yun na lang
That's just
titingnan
really
ko
a threat, no?
At siguro yung mga tao, iniisip nila, bakit nga ba? Wala ba sa inyo magagaling dyan na pwedeng tumalo dyan? Bakit ganyan na lang kayo, di ba?
Ako tingin ko na if ever there's going to be a lasting o kaya reliable lesson that we can derive from this survey, ang gusto ang reliable diyan, if it's a three-way race, VP Sara Duterte will definitely win the presidential race. If it's a three-way race or even more. Kasi historically, ang dami natin parating presidential candidates, ano? Hindi naging one, sinasabi ni Professor Holmes na back in the days na two-party system, dalawa lang magkalaban. That was before EDSA and before martial law. Pero ngayon na ano na tayo, multi-party system, at maraming pwedeng mag-field ng mga kanya-kanyang presidential candidates. Meron pa nga yung mga grupo ng mga progresibo, no?
Yes.
Tapos yan dyan pa yung mga nuisance candidates. Yung mga natatag later on as nuisance candidates. So, kung maraming maglalaban-laban, mananalo daw. According to the result of the survey, mananalo si VP Sara.
Alright.
So, mananarrow down lang yung winnability ni VP Sara if it is a one-on-one fight.
Kung magtatatlo sila, then.
One-on-one nga daw, sabi ni Prof. Yun lang ang chance.
Pero sabi din ni Professor Dennis, kung tatlo sila, malaki pa rin ang chance si VP Sara.
That's right.
At ang sinasabi ni Attorney Unay, kung mag-e-election ngayon, si VP Sara pa rin ang mananalo. Yun din ang sinasabi ng survey.
Yes.
Di ba?
Except kung makalaban niya head-to-head si Senator Raffy Tulfo kasi tied sila at 46%.
Sa ngayon.
At yun din, batay din niya sa survey.
Oo.
Pero ang tanong, paano ba dapat tignan ng mamamayan? Sabi pa nga natin, for certain, sabi din ni Professor Holmes kanina, for a specific period of time, well, yung survey, pwedeng magsabing totoo.
Yes, valid siya.
Pero along the way, marami po pwedeng mangyari hanggang sa 2028. Kaya ngayon, I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
For being here once again.
Nabuo din tayo.
Maraming salamat, Attorney Rizandro Unay and Dr. Dennis Coronation.
Thank you.
The latest Pulse Asia numbers show a political landscape that remains deeply regional, personality-driven, and highly emotional. Familiar names continue to dominate, but the tightening figures also tell us one thing. No lead is permanent. For Vice President Sara Duterte, the challenge is maintaining trust amid growing scrutiny and controversy. For Senator Raffy Tulfo, the question is whether popularity can eventually translate into a real national campaign. And for figures like Leni Robredo, the numbers suggest that political relevance is far from over. But perhaps the bigger story here is the Filipino voter. More vocal, more divided, more demanding. In the end, surveys can measure preference, but leadership is measured by vision, consistency, and the ability to unite a nation beyond political colors. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ox Balyado. And this has been the PH Insider on TV.